Hi everyone. Sorry I can't be with you today. As you know, Imogen and I are at the MYP course, realizing slowly that we don't know anything and that everything that we do needs to be changed. We'll go through a process this year of making sure that our units are actually looking like they should be. But we do feel like we need to make some quick changes in the beginning, especially for the Unit 2s. So you do have some departmental time tomorrow, Sunday, today, whenever you're watching this. So there's a few things that I would like you to do, and hopefully this video will share some of the stuff that we've learnt. If you can go through what I'm trying to get you to do on the video. Don't worry at all if it's really confusing, but then see either me or Imogen to check on Monday, because we feel quite strongly that we need to get some stuff sorted out in time for starting the new units with the kids. I'm assuming that our first lesson is going to be broadly based on feedback for assignments, so we do have a little bit of time to get this right. So, question for now is, how can we amend Unit 2 to be more aligned with the MYP? We're not going to get it fully aligned, but we think there's two things that we can do that will really change how we teach, and it will make sure that we're doing things a bit more MYP-ish. So one of the things we need to do is amend the inquiry question. We also need to amend the summative assessment, so criterion A, and we'll share both of these with the students in the beginning of the unit, and we'll keep referring to them throughout the unit, so that they know what they're going to be assessed on and why it's important that they know certain information. This should be a bit familiar to you, so we'll start with a unit title. We all have chosen a concept, and there are three concepts: systems, change, and I can't remember the third one. And then there are related concepts that we should have chosen. Please make sure that you've only chosen two of these. This isn't in the unit plan, but it's something that we have been doing this week, and it puts together the concepts and the related concepts, and it makes it a lot easier to get the statement of inquiry. Something that we didn't realise is that the statement of inquiry should also include the global context. So I'll just take you through an exercise that me and Imogen have done for one of the grade 6 units, and then hopefully you can do this for Unit 2 for your topic as well. So the unit title was Light and Sound. We chose the concept as being change, and the related concepts were form and function. So pretty easy so far. Then we were asked to put these into a conceptual understanding, which is basically just putting them into a sentence. So change may impact form or function is a pretty simple sentence, but once you put the global context with that, that's when you start to get a statement of inquiry that makes a bit more sense and is a bit more usable. At this point, the global context is really broad. We didn't really know how to decide on a global context. And the statement of inquiry is really broad. So what we were advised to do is look at the assessment. So how are we going to assess this unit? And then work backwards to pick the global context that's relevant to the assessment. So we had a think. There we are today, thinking. And we thought a criterion assessment could be something about sound and light pollution from the Burj Khalifa, from all the light shows and the fountains and everything, and how people could minimize it. So knowing that that was going to be our assessment, that gives a bit more of an idea about the global context. At first, we thought about the obvious choice, and I think for all of my units, have checked this one. The scientific and technical innovation. How do we understand the world in which we live? But actually, thinking about the assessment that we want to do, none of these bullet points or these explorations are relevant. So we looked through all of the global contexts. By the way, I have a handout with these in, which I'll attach to the email that I send this video with as well. And we found that in globalization and sustainability, if you look at the explorations on the right-hand side, the one that really stood out to us was human impact on the environment. So then we went back. So we've got our concept, our related concepts, and our conceptual understanding. And then our global context, which is globalization and sustainability, and that's like the main context. And then a subtopic of that is human impact on the environment. So we then managed to put those two together, which gave us changes to form or function can be manipulated to minimize human impact on the environment. So, thinking about our summative assessment, what that means is that if we change something about the light or sound show, then it might minimize the impact that it has on either people living around the Burj Khalifa or wildlife living around the Burj Khalifa. So, how do we design a criterion A summative assessment? So we have our vague idea of what the kids should be able to do. And we've looked at using something called a GRASP model. So it has to be a real world goal. They should have a role, an audience, a situation, a product, and a standard. This just gives you a little bit more information about each one. So there's a goal, which is a statement of the task. The role is the role of the students in the task. Who is the audience? What is the situation? And what is the product? So what we thought about for that particular example that I gave is the students would have a goal of looking at the problem of the noise and light pollution from the Burj Khalifa shows. The role would be an environment officer working for the government. The audience would be the people who put on the show, and it would be the residents of the Burj Khalifa. We'd have the context and the situation, so they talk about the fact that the sound and light pollution, and then the product is what the students actually have to do. Standards would be the rubric for criterion D, based on whichever grade is relevant for that. What we would really like to happen for the introductory lesson is to have the statement of inquiry done in the way that I've said, including the global context with some idea of where the students are going and what the focus is, and then some idea of what the summative assessment task is. This definitely does not have to be finished at all, and we can spend a few weeks getting that right before the tasks are given to the students. But we now understand that the way that these units should be taught is that the students should know this information at the beginning. So that when we teach, for example, we might be teaching about soundproofing, we can relate it back and say, okay, this is going to be relevant. As you know, your summative assessment task is going to be advising about how soundproofing could help minimize noise pollution for the residents of the Burj Khalifa. So we do feel like it's really important to have these two things sorted out before we start teaching these units. So if you could spend some time today trying to do that and then check them with either me or Imogen. If you can on Monday, I know a couple of people teach all day, but if not, then kind of just before we start teaching, then as we're teaching the units, we can figure other things out that we can teach, that we can change for next time. Hope that makes sense. Again, sorry I can't be in, but we're learning a lot. We are so tired. It gets to the end of the day and we can't even speak. But definitely useful, and we look forward to sharing it with you. Okay, see you on Monday. Bye.